John, thanks for joining me for this conversation about NFTs. I'm really excited to learn about Grow Your Base. So can you please introduce yourself and your organization to me?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I'm John Fields, NFTs are bust. I'm the CEO of Grow Your Base. And we really got excited about NFTs in 2018. We like this idea of using NFTs to think about how to change the concept of ownership, specifically digital ownership. And we were just like, wow, this is really interesting and has a lot of potential. And we got excited about it. And I won't say they were lonely days back then. There's a lot of just like explaining to people like what it is, and we are learning and exploring. And it was it was a small circle of people, but it's great that it's really started to grow, and it's I won't say mainstream adoption, but we're getting to where there's awareness, which is really exciting for us.
When you think about the community and the development of a decentralized autonomous organization where you empower that community in ways that would never be fathomed in Web 2, what is the biggest attractor to a Web3 DAO? And what are some of your potential concerns as you continue to build out this trajectory and this strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just participation. I mean, anybody with an internet connection can participate and make a difference. I mean, there's a lot of talk, and as you're growing up about you can make a difference, but these organizations are constructed for participation, but they have to have the right incentives. So I think I don't know if it's a concern, but I think it's certainly something I'm curious to see how it develops. Is are the right incentives there? Is the quality of participation there? But I think that there needs to be a lot of thought that goes into how do you participate? What are the incentives for those that are participating? But you see the early results. It gives us a lot of hope, and gives me a lot of encouragement for these kind of organizations to really make a big difference in not only with what they can achieve, but also just in the participants' lives. And I think it's going to be a generational event. When I talk to my kids about digital art, and they talk to their grandparents about physical art, it's a fascinating conversation because they both they're curious of why the other one is so confused by their position, right? The grandparents are like, why would you ever buy something that's on your phone? And the kids are like, why would you ever buy something you put up on a wall? You can't, show it off and show it to people. So I think DAOs in particular are so natural and will really gravitate and really take off as we see the next couple of years in a certain demographic age-wise.
Well, I think you and I are probably at a similar place in life, right? I have two boys, 9 and 12, and they get to spend a lot of time with my parents, their grandparents, their mom's parents. So Thanksgiving's coming up. So you're around the Thanksgiving table, and you happen to have the joy of being with your parents and your kids, and they're all asking questions about, the technology behind it. How do you approach explaining the tech behind Grow Your Base and the industry as a whole to those that either are kind of young and trying to understand and comprehend the potential complexities of the tech, and an older generation that you'll lose them pretty quickly if you get too deep on it? So how do you attack that for folks that in this case, family?
Yeah, that is the question, right? I mean, since we started in 2018, we did a lot of educating, a lot of explaining. In fact, the first thing we launched was the NFT earn model, because we wanted anyone to be able to, if they didn't have capital, to be able to acquire an NFT. And that's goes along with that leveling the playing field. If you're talking about with younger generation, I think the Fortnite is a lot of people use a good example of you can spend money in there, but you don't really own it, and the publisher owns it, and you can't take it with you. And that's usually an easy sell. It's an easy conversation to have. I think when you're talking about talking with your parents or aunt and uncles or someone older, it always helps to start by talking about, you kind of already have digital money, right? I mean, if you use your debit card, use your credit card. I can't remember the last time I pulled out and used bills, right? And then, you kind of talk about, well, you own a stock portfolio, right? And do you have the certificates? Did they send you those bond certificates that you own, Vamp? Or do you have the GE stock certificate? And they don't, right? Because that doesn't happen anymore. But there's a digital record. There's an identifier that says, hey, you own 100 shares of this stock. And I think if you kind of start by demystifying and creating some parallels with what their real life is like, then you can kind of ease them into why you would, why it makes sense and why NFTs are let's say a better mousetrap, right? And that's really exciting for us, because if you think about they're more easy to socialize and to share and to move back and forth. And I always say, well, someday their fees are going to be lower, right? We're on Ethereum, they're always not, but they'll get there. And then they start to kind of see the benefit from a cost perspective. Oh, it's moving the needle in terms of transaction costs. But it's a different conversation and usually a longer conversation. But I think if you're patient and you kind of explain it like that, I've had a lot of success with that approach. What about you? Have you found a similar approach?
I usually talk about Minecraft because it is something my two boys have played so much, and they spent thousands of hours building out virtual worlds that Microsoft owns.
Mm-hmm.
Their grandparents have seen them spend all this time. Their grandparents are involved in construction and real estate, so they kind of understand the whole thing of architecting a world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk with it about like, hey, like you've been building homes and doing real estate all your life that's physical, and your grandkids, my boys, like they're playing these digital worlds and they don't own any of it. And Microsoft could take away at any moment. So all this is just something similar. And I'll explain maybe Upland or the Sandbox or Decentraland from a really high level, where it's like you get to be a builder or a real estate agent. You get to be a gamer, but you own it all. And when you're done with it, you can break it off in pieces and sell it and be compensated for your energy. So that's usually how I might approach that conversation at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you mentioned Minecraft, and I'm sure when you were a kid, we had Nintendo, and I'd, go to the arcade, and it's, as a parent, you struggle like, well, how much do you get to play and what's right? And do you have those conversations ever with your,
Oh yeah.
And you'll love this. I predicted that next year we're going to hire, because we have our own development studio. We build games, we build experiences. And I told the team, next year we're on track to hire a couple, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, and that's all they've done, and they've gotten a lot of grief with their parents. We're going to pay them a 6-figure salary, right? to come and build in Sandbox, to come and build in these different worlds that we own these different pieces in. So it's really funny to kind of think about that, and probably going to give kids a lot of ammunition when we start doing that.
Well, I think you're potentially going to set the tone for what's normal for NFT 2024, right? Yeah. You give it 2 or 3 years, and you're going to find that young people are not just going to make a living, but they're going to provide immense value to themselves and to maybe many generations to come, because of how we structure these things, and to businesses. If you had everybody gather in Times Square, the 5,000 people from NFT NYC, and you have the billboards in Times Square, what's a message you might leave us all with right now?
For NFTs, that kind of message?
Yeah, I mean, just to the NFT community, the community of builders, of collectors, of people that are driving this. You're not a new message, not a new audience, but the ones that are your peers, that are your heroes, that maybe they're your Padwans that you're leading, maybe they're your Jedis that you look to, but these are the people that are building things. What do you want to say to all of them?
They probably don't need reminded, but I'd just say we're all going to make it. And I say that because I've never been part of an organization, a community, a culture, whatever you want to call it, where there's just so much collaboration and brilliance. I mean, there's just so many driven, smart, diverse people in the space, but they're, boy, 95% of the time, they're always willing to, help and lend a hand and participate. And I'm not talking about like living on Twitter. I'm talking about just like connecting with people, telling them what you do, asking them how you can help. You can do that in this space, and I don't see that changing. But it's crypto it's attached to crypto, and it's volatile and it's a lot of emotions. But if everybody keeps performing and acting civil and being kind and helpful, we're all going to make it. That would be my message.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And if anybody out there is watching us live, or if you see the archive, I want to thank you for your attention. If you don't know me, my name's Ian Utility. I'm one of the co-producers at NFT NYC, and I get the great joy of interacting with people like you, John. And we're thankful that Grow Your Base is involved in the event, and I look forward to seeing you in New York very, very soon.
Likewise, Ian. It's going to be fun to get to meet face